Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Bible study here on the book of John here at St. Paul's United Church of Christ in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. I am Reverend Peter Haskins, and I am so happy that you are with me today. And just take a few minutes here, and we're going to be talking about Logos. And so, by the way, I'm on the other side of my office here. You can see my Christmas ties and some other pictures here. So some different look to the background here. But last week we talked about Logos, and we talked about the first 5 verses in John. So we're going to get to a few more verses in John, but really talk about the idea of Logos within the structure of this book, which is completely different than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So I just wanted to begin this, and I love this stuff. Last week, several of you commented. By the way, make sure to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do, and share it. So it'd be great to have you with us, and as a part of our church family, this is a major part of it. By the way, we are going to be starting a podcast here soon, so I'm looking forward to starting that and looking forward to continuing on with some new things here at St. Paul's here in the Falls. So last week we talked about Logos. We talked about Logos being this speech or reason. Aristotle really talks about this, and I'll just go ahead and quote from Aristotle. The Logos is designed to distinguish the beneficial from the harmful, and thus also the right and the wrong. For this, in distinction from the other animals, is the distinctive property of man, that he alone has the ability to perceive good and bad and right and wrong and other qualities. And it is communication of these things that makes a household and a city-state. That is Aristotle himself. So last week we talked about how some of these, some of the early Greeks, Heraclitus in particular, talked about this ordering principle for the universe. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this concept that is specifically designed to contain this idea that each individual human being, as Aristotle talks about, it has the ability to discern right from wrong, and it is called this Logos. And in the book of John, John in these first few verses, not just making references to Genesis, not the Phil Collins Genesis, but like the original Genesis, right? Or the Peter Gabriel Genesis, for those old fans of Genesis, but the Old Testament Genesis. So this idea that the Logos was contained within all of us is a huge deal, and we need to pause a little bit, and we need to talk about this because it is an enormous part of the book of John. You can't really go any further without really talking about this. So I want to go ahead and read this, starting with verse 6. So we're going to go to verse 14. There came a man who was sent from God. His name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all men might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives light to every man was coming into the world. So he's talking about John the Baptist, not Jesus. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or of a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came unto the Father full of grace and truth. It just is. I love this because it is so underestimated what this means, and it gets into the issue of theosis and deification, which the Protestant Church and certainly the Catholic Church has abandoned, but the early Church has not. And that's one of the things that I'm interested in, is this idea of theosis. But we'll continue to get into that. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Gnostics, because the Gnostics it's one of the things that I got interested in early. When I started to venture out on my own intellectually when I was in college and then early seminary. Seminary kind of squelched it for me in terms of the kind of investigating Gnosticism. But there's a book by Elaine Pagels about Gnosticism, and it's a really good introduction to it, Elaine Pagels. But the Gnostics, Gnosticism in particular, it still interests me. And you see echoes of this belief system within the book of John. So I want to talk a little bit about that. The early church just eradicated the Gnostics and brutally eradicated them. They were known as a heresy within the early church. And they flourished, though, for a couple hundred years, the 2nd and 3rd centuries. They were very, very prominent within early Christianity. So a lot of Christians gravitated toward this and mixed Christianity and Gnosticism together. And it was really inspired by this hard, transient life that the early church had to experience, and the people within this day and age had to experience because of Hellenization. Hellenization was this fact that you've got this huge area of land that was conquered by the Romans, and they shared their culture, and they shared their religion, and others shared theirs, and everything got mixed together, and social structures based on religion, based on the agricultural religions, were really threatened. So people were searching. So not only do you have that, but you've got the mystery cults, you've got the religious philosophies, Hellenistic Judaism, which died out in a few hundred years too. But Gnosticism in particular was something I want to talk about here. Gnosis is this. Gnosis, if you're taking notes, is a revealed knowledge through which a person achieves salvation. A revealed knowledge through which a person achieves salvation. So the Gnostics rejected the physical world, whether they were ascetics or whether they were just libertines. They rejected the world. And through Gnosis, through this revealed knowledge to each individual person, they could return to the light, to this unknown source. And this Gnosis freed them from all the worldly concerns. So all the things that were holding them back, giving them anxiety about the world didn't make sense anymore to them, and to a lot of them, because their old religions, they're gone. People were able to travel all around because of these roads and the communication that they had. New systems were being thrown onto people, and all of a sudden there was this modernization, and their old ways of doing things were really threatened. So they grasped onto this. So this Gnosis freed them from these concerns, and these very legitimate concerns, and they allowed them to feel freer. But one of the reasons why the early church just obliterated Gnosticism from, and called them heretics, was because many of the Gnostics who were really leaders within the Gnosticism considered them elite spiritual beings, and they believed that they were the only ones capable of this salvation. So Gnosticism wasn't open to everyone, and the church said, we have to be open to everyone. The gospel has to be open to everyone, and you can see this in Paul. Everyone has to be offered this. And with the Gnostics, you were either in the spiritual elite, or you were someone who possessed a soul and free will but lacked enlightenment, or you were a helikos, which was someone who was dominated by their carnal selves, and you were spiritually ignorant. So you had these three different levels, and there was an elitism, and that's why it was just they really fought hard. I mean, this is a huge, huge battle between the early church fathers and Gnosticism, and the early church fathers won. And this is relevant to us in terms of what's going on in our world today, in particular with the idea of logos, and really gnosis in particular, why it is used as a way to discern. Diakrisis, which is Greek for discernment, is this diakrisis within the early church is so important. Logos has a lot to do with this, and within this idea of discernment, the early the folks who were living in this time, they had to figure out what was right and wrong, and they needed to plug into a source of knowledge. And they needed to plug into the pneuma, which is also another word, which is the equivalent of logos in some respects, pneuma and logos. And they're all tied together. Gnosis, pneuma, logos, they're all tied together with the Word of God. So Jesus is coming into the world. Obviously, John is making sure that everyone knows that John the Baptist is not that. They made there was a undercurrent of a real battle, I think, between John and Jesus, even though they were cousins, because so much of the Gospels is talking about how John is definitely not the Christ. So obviously John had something to do with that proclamation. But he is talking about how this light, this source of light, came into the world, and how now we can all have access to it because of this concept of logos, which is this, as Heraclitus says, it is the ordering principle of the universe that is within each of us. And that is what attracted me to Gnosticism and meditation and the Jesus prayer. For me, and my own guiding principle in my life, which is very alive today, and we need to have a method within our own spiritual lives that is able to discern right from wrong. I mean, we have many fellow Americans who are really struggling with determining what is right and wrong, and they're grasping onto things, and they're grasping onto conspiracy theories, and they don't care what the morality is, and they don't care about the ethics. They don't care what it looks like. They just want to be safe. They just want to make sure that they are counted within this elite, right? There's the scary part, is that if we don't watch it, we are really just reducing our religion to these little groups that haves and have-nots. And really, when we're talking about this in terms of our spirituality, and which is the basis of Christianity, if we don't really fight hard for this gnosis, for this logos, for this pneuma, for this spiritual knowledge, if we don't fight hard for it and really identify our religion as the discovery within each individual person of this logos, we don't fight for that, then our religion becomes two-dimensional, and we do become elitist. And that's why Gnosticism died out, because it became elitist. And that's why Christianity in 2021 in America is going to die out, if it just becomes elitist. We need to really look hard at this. And it's one of the things that interests me, because within Christianity, one of the driving ideas within it is that every person, every individual has that logos. Every individual has that logos. We all have that driving universal principle, that we have that within each one of us. And he says here, yet all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent. You're not just born into it, as Judaism says, or within any kind of rich family or social status, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. So Christ comes along, and the reason Christ is significant and unique is that he awakens that within us. It's not, there's no other religion that quite says it like Christianity does. That each individual has this gnosis, this knowledge of God. None of the other religions have this. And this is why Christianity is distinctive. And it's very, very exciting to me to jump into this idea and really begin to look at it, because think about this. You have the potential to be Christ-like. In the early church, the idea here is called theosis. You have the potential to do this. You can move beyond just imitating right moral behavior. You can move beyond that. And you have the potential to get closer and closer to God. And if you're interested in that idea, stay with me and stay with this Bible study, and we're going to explore this more and more. So I'm very excited to have you with me, and it's great to have you here. So blessings to you. This will be the end of our 2nd John Bible study here, and next week we're going to be talking about John the Baptist. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of crazy stuff there with John the Baptist, and oh man, we can talk forever about John the Baptist. Amazing. Just got a pile of books here, and I'm going to share those with you. And so share this Bible study with folks you think that really want to get in depth in this kind of stuff, and share the link on Facebook, and then and share it on YouTube as well. So blessings to you, and wherever you are at on life's journey, we're here with you at St. Paul's. God bless you. See you soon.